Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today I want to do a very fast guide, an informative guide on how you can use tap strafing to better your movement. What we're going to do is help you understand what it is visually. Then we're going to go into MS Paint to where I can show you it also in a different visual way. Then we're going to understand why tap strafing is important and how it can benefit your gameplay. So real quick, we're going to do, and I have the inputs on the upper right hand screen so you can see me overall move with my mouse. So obviously whenever you slide jump and then you just arc, you know, you can hit the A key and kind of bounce around. I'm showcasing this in third person. What a tap strafe does for you is whenever you slide and do the same thing is obviously you can go more into a direction that you want to go and you can make a harder turn. This obviously can't occur whenever you're just doing a regular side jump. Your character gets limited overall on its movement. So let's showcase that again one more time. Slide jump and I press A, right? You can consider that a little bit of a tap strafe. You're just trying to move in that general direction. So we're going to do it again, but we're going to tap strafe this time. You get a very hard turn on your character. So if we look at this visually again, and then we're going to go into first person. I want to showcase it there, and then we're going to break down how to do it. I just want you to understand the visual. So if you slide and then jump, you have yourself a little bit of a pull. It's almost like the movement is stopping. It feels like it's hard, I guess the best word, gated. But once you use a tap strafe, it almost feels like there's an extra mobility that you have with your character. And the reason I'm showcasing it on Horizon is because she quite literally has the best air movement and directional pull. So I'm using her as a visual example. So let's segue real quick to the MS Paint version of this, just to get a better understanding, we'll say better twice, of how you tap strafe. And then I'm going to switch over to first person and showcase it as well. And then we're going to go over all the inputs. Okay, I wanted to showcase just a visual representation in Paint, just so you understand. I'm going to do third person, first person. I want you guys to really understand this concept, that whenever you just slide jump initially, you'll have just this normal movement, right? You're going to do an arc. Now the same thing happens whenever you tap strafe, but now you have a heavier arc. And you can even get that arc at the start to bounce a certain direction. So that when you tap strafe, depending on how far you want to go, whenever using a scroll wheel, this is important to understand because that's your visual representation on screen there. Okay, let's segue right back to the video. So now just some quick pickup footage. I wanted to remind those that are on controller that unfortunately this is almost virtually impossible to do on controller. It definitely is possible. The inputs required, this is why you have scroll wheel to really push you a certain direction, can be very, very difficult to do. And it may not be necessary. Now, the reason why this is helpful for controller players to know is when you see a PC player using a tap strafe, especially when it's in combat and moving around, you understand what their movement is and what they're capable of, especially what type of player that you're dealing with, essentially. You can even do it as a hard counter to move a different direction. The idea, again, with a tap strafe is that you're using it to keep forward momentum. Whenever you don't tap strafe, what you'll notice with that momentum is that it just stops and then you just kind of freeze. You lose your speed, and you don't want to lose your speed, you want to gain your speed. Now, just to break down tap strafing, and you can incorporate this into many different abilities such as a wall bounce, but what I'm going to showcase right here, and I'll showcase an example of it later and you can see the inputs and we'll break those down individually, is you move forward, you slide, and jump. But of course what you want to do is hit your peak in the movement, so you maximize on that. So again, you slide, jump once you hit your peak, and that's your fastest mobility that you're going to have. So once we rinse and repeat it, you're going to incorporate a direction, whether it's A or D, depending on where you would like to go. So in this situation, we're going to use A, but I'm not incorporating the full tap strafe quite yet. So what we're going to do in terms of the tap strafe now is we're going to slide, jump, hold A, and then use your scroll wheel, to garner that momentum. So that is what you call a tap strafe, as you're seeing me bounce back and forth here. Now, why do I use scroll wheel? Again, you can use your W key and spam it afterwards. It's just a little bit easier. As you can tell, it works when you just hit your W key and spam it. I prefer scroll wheel because it just spams the input, and I keep hitting the wall just because I'm tap strafing a little bit too hard onto the wall, as you saw there. But again, you can use W immediately, as you saw. I just feel it's a little bit more elegant to use your scroll wheel. So what I've done, let's go to settings, go to mouse and key. I have actually put my forward key on the up scroll wheel, as you can see here. Now again, you can just use your regular W key to make this movement effective. It's a little bit harder to time, not really, but it's just what you feel most comfortable with. And For me, the scroll wheel is just a little bit easier. Now, the reason why this is harder to do on controller is that you have to spam the up input when you're moving, so that's why I say it's a little bit virtually impossible to do on a controller. But if you understand this movement and how somebody's doing it, again, a regular slide, you just see how the angle, it's just harder to move around the corner without a tap strafe, despite me holding A and getting my mouse over there. But the minute you incorporate a tap strafe, it's like, oh, you're right over there, and you keep that same speed and momentum, and it's really nice and clean, especially when you're cutting corners and avoiding gunfire from somebody. You'll just get around the corner, you'll save yourself some of that extra damage if you're getting lasered, and it just makes the world of a difference. So let's discuss why tap strafing is important and why it's helpful and beneficial. Again, if you have further questions in the comment section down below, we can talk about that as well. But why tap strafing is so beneficial is that it helps you cut a corner or cut an angle at a much faster pace compared to an enemy. So here's another real world example, is that you'll instantly just cut a corner if somebody's chasing you. So if you use it all the time in your movement, it'll help you dodge gunfire. But if you're moving around, you can cut easily around a corner more effectively. So let's say somebody's shooting at me, wants to hit maximum momentum, and then I cut the corner and then dodge. Rather than, here's the other example without a tap strafe of what that looks like. So you'll slide, you kind of have a little bit of a hard pull. You're trying, but you feel a little bit slower. That extra mobility just makes you a lot harder to hit, especially when recoil is introduced into the game, to where you can dodge gunfire and be a lot more mobile whenever moving. So just to showcase what a bunny hop can do, the more airtime you have, the more effective your bunny hop can be. So obviously what you want to do whenever you're bunny hopping is the more momentum you have, you'll slide, you'll jump, you'll bounce, and then use a tap strafe, bounce, bounce, use a tap strafe, bounce, bounce, tap strafe, bounce, 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 tap strafe, just to kind of give you some mobility as you're mid-air. It's a little harder to do whenever you're just doing a normal wall bounce. You have a little bit less time, obviously, to time the bunny hop with the tap strafe, since you're already kind of having momentum left and right. So I say the more real world applications, whenever you have a little bit of forward momentum, whenever you're sliding down somewhere and you tap strafe into a bunny hop, or vice versa. Now I know I showcased a tap strafe to a wall bounce, so what you want to do is slide jump and tap strafe and then hit the wall. This is a little bit harder to time, so if you jump, slide, tap strafe, and then wall bounce right after, you can get yourself a little bit more forward momentum. It's a little bit harder to time, naturally. So you'll slide, jump, kind of screwed it up there, and you'll tap strafe right into the wall, and then wall bounce right after. Again, what you'll notice whenever I wall bounce, especially what I've done in the tutorial, as mentioned before, you will slide jump into a wall, and then bounce right off of it. You don't need to press any keys, you're just, all that at that point is forward momentum. And of course, I'll add this a little extra into the video, but people were asking, because it kind of incorporates into the tap strafe and understanding it, whenever you slide jump, you can use your A key to wall bounce. It's kind of somebody mentions an advanced wall bounce, but I don't really think it is. It's the same application. You're technically kind of tap strafing by using A. You're tapping into the wall. It's not a full tap strafe because you're not using your scroll wheel or W key, but what you're doing, and it's effectively how it ties into this wall bounce that I just discussed, is you slide jump, press A, and then you wall bounce after. Notice how all I'm using is my scroll wheel in terms of the overall input. And if I do it one more time, I think it helps visually to understand. And this is how you get that wall bounce specifically, a little bit more advanced as you're running away. Because realistically, whenever you wall bounce, you're not always going to be just running right towards the wall and wall bouncing over. You're most likely going to be running away from an individual, and then you're just going to want to wall bounce and get that momentum and be a little bit harder to hit. Alright, so that is today's video. Hopefully you guys found it helpful, insightful. Hopefully this new format is helpful for you guys. I wanted to get to the point. I'm going to timestamp all of the content to make sure that it's understandable and digestible within certain segments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.